shift gears here from panelist to moderator, and I appreciate being here with all of you amazing women. I'm super excited for this panel, and we have some great questions lined up for you. So, and again, welcome to everyone joining us today for this this amazing conference. So it's great to see so many influential and knowledgeable women getting together to share their expertise on psychedelics in the industry and what's happening moving forward. So I thought before we got started that we would just go around and everyone could say a few words about themselves. We will start with Susan.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much for moderating this panel. My name is Susan Chapelle. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Pure Minds Biopharma in Toronto. And I have been in the psychedelic space since its market inception, but I've been enjoying plant medicine for as long as I can remember. So it's lovely to be on this panel on research and innovation. My previous life, I was a researcher at the University of New England in, I studied post-surgical adhesions in post-surgical cancer patients and the mechanism involved in that, so pain mechanisms.
Wow, well, thank you so much. We're definitely happy to have you here today with us. Let's go to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm talking on this new fancy mic. I hope it sounds good today. I am a CITO, Chief Innovation and Technology Officer of Red Light Holland, a company that's selling psychedelics as a tool for growth in the Netherlands right now and promoting legalization of psychedelics in other places in the world. I'm also CEO of my own technology company called Radix Motion, and we're building a lot of innovative technology for psychedelic companies. We can talk about that later.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us, especially all the way from the Netherlands today.
I'm in California right now. Oh. We're a very international company. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us from California. It's great to have you. Olga, if you would like to share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Great to share the panel with so many wonderful and very knowledgeable women. I'm Olga Chernoloz. I'm Wake Network's Chief Scientific Officer. I'm a neuroscientist and specialist in neuropsychopharmacology, so this is definitely my jam.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Olga. And just so I get the pronunciation right, it's Hanifa?
Yes, Hanifa. Thank you.
Wonderful. Welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Cool. Yes, thank you. Good day, good now, everybody. My name is Hanifa Washington. I'm calling in from New Haven, Connecticut. And I am here today representing as a co-founder and the cultivator of beloved community for Fireside Project. We are recently launched here just in this past year. And in 2014, or I always say that, on April 14th of this year, we launched the first national psychedelic peer support line. And so the mission of what we're up to is to help people minimize the risks of their psychedelic experiences while fulfilling the potential of them. And so we do this through, passionate peer support, as well as furthering psychedelic research, public education, and we do this all while embracing equity and community building. So I'm really happy today to share about the Psychedelic Peer Support Line, what we're up to, and what our future looks like.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we have speakers tuning in from all over the globe here. As I know, we have attendees tuning in from all over the globe. So it'd be great to see where people are from in the chat. And also, if you have any questions for the speakers, please put those in the Q&A as well, because we'll have some time at the end of this session to be able to go through a few of questions from the audience as well. So let's start out with our questions that we have. Some of these questions are going to be specific to your specialization. So if this is a question that you want to jump on, feel free to unmute yourself. But we will definitely go around to see if anyone has anything to say about this specific question. So the first one I have for everyone this morning is based on the customization of psychedelic healing experiences. And the customization of psychedelic healing experiences is the future. Can anyone here today describe what this will look like?
I'm happy to go first, but anyone else, I'm sure, has a lot to say. What we're seeing both in research and I think in the industry is the understanding that psychedelics increase the plasticity in your brain, but to make the most out of them and also to decrease the risk, what really is important is customizing the set and setting. And we're seeing this. There's a new research lab. Robin Cartwright-Harris is moving to California to open a new research lab specifically around that. Because people use psychedelics, as everyone knows, for very different reasons. Every person's trauma is based on where they come from, the larger social and environmental context that we're in. And this is a very different approach. I hope we're going to see a very different approach than the pharmaceutical companies, where we don't want to just give people, here's the substance, good luck, you're on your own. And we're really trying to create support structures and customization of psychedelic healing.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I know that's definitely a big question that is surfacing, is how is this going to be different than big pharma, going forward? How are things are going to be different that way? So if anyone wants to comment on that, feel free to do so as well. Olga, it looks like you're unmuted there, so go ahead with your answer.
Yes, and I think we have to recognize that today in 2021, the entire medicine as well as industry, as well as wellness industries, are moving towards personalized medicine. And number one way to attain that is through analysis of genotype. And I think, well, there are first steps done by several companies, us included, in that direction. And I think it's going to be one of the major developments in developing customized ways of treatment with psychedelic medicine.
Very important. Thank you so much, Olga. Susan?
Yeah, I think I love the idea of personalized medicine. And, there's so many ways that we can actually look at personalized medicine with neuroscience. But I think we're a long way off from that because of the systems in place. We still have to operate within our healthcare systems, and the healthcare systems are in bad need of, I'd say, renovation. Our systems are poorly placed for human health, I would say, and that psychedelics now have to fit into the approval system with safety profiles and stage 3 clinical trials, and we are moving towards a pharmaceutical approach with these medicines, but it is quite remarkable to see the low dosage, the enhanced functional neural connectivity that these substances offer. And, it is not a great model for pharma, because if one dose can radically change your outlook on your disease profile or add functional medicine to that, it's not a fantastic money-making market. But there's so many positive attributes, and then changing the system so that we can actually have personalized medicine, and changing the system so that we can actually look to the future and treat brain diseases individually and be able to actually customize medicine, treatment, set and setting, so that human health can expand and you can have better wellness and connectivity in our healthcare system. And I look forward to all of this, but I'm pessimistic that we're further away than we think to personalized medicine, although I wish it was different.
Yeah, thank you for that, Susan. From my angle, running a helping to support what is really a risk reduction tool. I think that that is a super important a piece of all of this, and could use its actually fully own conference, is to talk about, if we're talking about a post-decrim world and we're talking about post-legalization, what does that look like? What is the on-ramp? What is the map of that? Because everyone's sort of in this, wonderful rush to create that world, to decriminalize. But if we don't have a plan afterwards, if we don't have tools that are accessible to everybody, what are we really rushing into creating? And so the thing that Fireside Project is saying, hey, this is something we're stepping into, we are a model of what post-decrim can look like, is a free service accessible to all people, that is peer support. So we are not using a medical model. We are using peer support. However, the information that can be gathered, the data that we as a peer support can collect and offer back to researchers and to the folks in the psychedelic community, we feel is really valuable. So we're actually in the very beginning stages of the IRB process with the University of California in San Francisco to begin our first study. And so we will be, we send post survey after each call and text. We send a post survey and are asking people very simple questions, but we really feel like this information that we're gathering can help inform what people are experiencing and help folks who can help them down the line therapeutically cultivate tools, cultivate medicines and processes that could be helpful in the long run. And we have some interesting data coming in, which I'll talk about later.
Thank you so much, Hanifa, and I will definitely use that as a segue into our next question. I just wanted to quickly comment on what Susan said in regards to the, the medicalization of it. We have to fit into the system in order to change the system in a way. There's different routes to legalization. There's decriminalization, there's also medicalization. So, it's kind of like changing the system from within, but we have to get in the system first. And the work that you guys are doing is so important to that. So thank you so much for all of that work that you're doing on that. In regards to people who are consuming psychedelics, who are using psychedelics, what resources and supports are available out there currently?
I can only speak for the Netherlands, obviously, because we're really focused, we're a publicly traded company. In the Netherlands, we currently have a therapist as part of, if you buy our microdosing kits, and even if you're just considering microdosing, you can talk to a therapist that has expert knowledge around microdosing, not giving medical advice, but just helping people tune into the science, tune into, is this something they want to try, helping them find mindfulness practices that they can then figure out if microdosing is helping them or not, along with a companion app, imicroapp.com, that helps people keep track of their microdosing, along with getting physiological data. We're a privacy first app. We don't even connect to people's email. We just want to offer this as a service to the community. Because as we know, there's very little actual research about microdosing, and it's really important to start getting that data. If people do want to, they can decide to share their data with researchers, but that's up to them. The most important thing for us is to build this support structure and community in the Netherlands for people that are interested in microdosing, and can have a community and a therapist to talk about this and figure out if this is a good fit for them.
I would probably direct people interested in microdosing to Open Science project that they are running in collaboration with Johns Hopkins University. So that way you can do what you do and help advance science in this needed area.
I have a lot of concerns with a lot of the microdosing open science, although absolutely, Olga, it's a fantastic way to collect, since people are using these substances anyways, but the long-term toxicity studies have not been completed with microdosing. and we don't really know. I think I've shared with on these forums before the looking at the fibrosis and anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory effects with long-term dosing for either in mushrooms or LSD. We really don't have a daily dosing amount yet that has shown any effect. There's no research there's a lot of research on higher doses and single doses, but no long-term dosing effects for microdosing and self-medication. So I think that there's so much promise in this area. All mushrooms have had protective properties, anti-inflammatory properties, but psilocybin mushrooms have not really been studied for receptor toxicity. And I worry in particular about the 5-HTC receptors on the heart valves. Even though there is some evidence now that it is safe, it really, the mechanism of action with inflammatory, pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory really hasn't been established. And by using an app, you're just reporting your cognitive effects, but not really the physiological effects. So I think that science is going to come a long way in the next year, and that a lot more studies are going to be done and can be done with blood tests and looking at cytokines and other inflammatory mediators with these mushrooms and with other substances like LSD and MDMA.
And here comes Wake with our actual registered research on mushroom-based microdosing. So we are very proud to say that our first study was approved on both IRB and ministerial levels and is aimed to start in Jamaica sometime later this summer. And it's going to be a first study of its kind because it's going to be a first study actually researching microdosing in a double-blind fashion. And it's going to be a first study that looks at psilocybin that is mushroom derived versus all the other studies done with psilocybin to date that were done with synthetic substances. So we're truly, truly excited for this study, and I'm sure the community shares that excitement with us.
That's amazing. I would just hop in and add around what resources are available for those who are, actively tripping, and that's one of the things that the Fireside Project was really inspired by, was that this notion of like no one needing to be alone during a psychedelic experience, whether that's one that is what we call bad or having a difficult or challenging time, someone just needing grounding, someone trip sitting someone else who needs support, someone who's had an experience in the past that's looking to unpack. And so the basis of this is providing emotional peer support, psychological support, anybody during any of those phases can call us or text us. And so right now we're just available in the US. We'll be expanding soon, actually, to Canada within the next few months or so, which is exciting, with the larger vision of going international and being a global service 24/7. And so how things work now is folks call in or they text in, and they get to speak with one of our volunteers for an extended amount of time. And we are also, during the call, asking questions, holding space, reflecting back, and things that are shared with us, we do reflect in a database. So we are tracking what types of substances folks are using, and that range has been from LSD, mushrooms, psilocybin, synthetics. We don't hold or track any personal information from people, so we do have a lot of confidentiality. So no numbers, no emails, or anything like that are stored. But it really helps us to see like what is being used, where, how often. If there's age ranges that come in. So it's really interesting data that we have access to, and it's going to be a really kind of first subset of this type of data we think to really exist in the community. So it's really exciting to see people calling in. So we launched on the 14th of April. And so before that time, there was no place that someone could call or text in with questions, with a desire to be held. And so it was amazing. On the first day we had, during the first shift with their 4-hour shifts, we had 7 interactions that day and are sort of kind of averaging that. And it's just really awesome to think that people are getting that support. And then also there's this now research potentiality as well that's being developed through this subset of data.
Very needed service.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. It's great to see all of that is happening. I do have some questions, one specifically, and we'll go back to toxicity, see if anyone has anything to add on that, and then another one around clinical research. But in regards to toxicity, this is something that, I've heard on many, many different webinars. It's something to definitely look at in the industry, but where in the industry is looking at toxicity currently at, and how will this impact the industry going forward?
At this time, there is some research on animals, and in humans, you would imagine if there is no controlled studies on the effects of microdosing, there is no controlled studies into long-term effects of microdosing. So we are pioneering and starting this work, and we will be collecting safety data. So we'll hopefully our contemporaries who are undertaking research in this area. So the research that we are conducting now will serve as a basis for the long-term development of this avenue altogether.
Yeah, I think it's super important, and we're very much, at the beginning of stages of scientific research here. I also think it's important to look at this in context of other substances where we do know the toxicity and when we do know the harm, whether it's SSRIs or Adderall, where it's very clear the long-term damages, even the short-term come downs. And, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence and people that have been using these substances for years, and we don't know what's happening to their inflammation. There might be things that we're not aware of yet, but it's also, I feel, important to say that we haven't seen anything even close to what other substances are causing people. And this is like no recommendation here from me. I'm not, a psychiatrist. If people are in SSRIs, talk to your doctors here. But there is, from my perspective, a really deep need around mental health. And I've just on a personal level seen so many damages coming from some of these prescriptions. Literally, a friend of mine was admitted to a psychotic ward because of too much Adderall and not being able to sleep, and just a meltdown that happened. So I think it's, I also don't, from a personal perspective, want to halt everything and be like, okay, stop doing everything until we get more data. If you need this and this is helping you, be in touch with yourself, try to get as much expert data as you can about yourself. Look at doctors, talk to everything, whatever data is out there, and be in touch with what's happening with you. That's, I think, what people can try to do right now as all the experts gather together. And it's really amazing to see, the collaborations that are happening and how everybody's pushing forward for we need more data. So.
And I think through getting more data, we can bring together the communities that are looking for alternative methods of healing and addressing their mental health conditions, and medical healthcare professionals, because I don't want to make a boogeyman out of psychiatry and out of traditional medicine altogether. It's not like they're out there to harm us. We just need to present them the data that they are seeking in the format that they are used in seeing, and meet them in the middle, and that way create a win-win-win for patients in the middle of it all.
Yeah, Olga and Sarah, you bring up such salient points on that. I although coming from science, you always want more data and safety profiles. And I think that people who are not used to using new medications in the medical field look at these substances as just, they can't differentiate between natural substances and things that have been taken culturally to heal mental health for time immemorial. These substances have been used and have quite a proficient safety profile. And Sarah, your point of, we have to compare it to other harms. I think that's one of the most important points, is that when we look at the tools that we have in our toolbox, there are no sufficient tools to deal with the epidemic of mental health and trauma that is going on in the world today. And that, when I was in municipal council and you had to make a tough decision, you have to say that, there is enough data, really. If we have a good safety profile, there's no harm in trying these substances and using something outside the box. And that I look at coffee and alcohol, would anything be approved today if we actually had to go through this stringent safety profile? Would I be drinking as much coffee today? Probably not, because it probably wouldn't be an approved use and we wouldn't have as many coffee shops. But I look at these substances as being safe and effective use and a great alternative to all of those harmful SSRIs that have been causing so many problems and also are not evidence-based. Many of those SSRIs are just molecules that have been changed in pharma in order to create new profiles so that new medications can be created without going through the rigors of science, and don't have great outcomes and have groups that are continually added so that you can get a better p-value, which is not a great way to develop medication, where we have these natural substances with years and years of anecdotal evidence of effectiveness and very, very fantastic safety profiles and offer of hope with very low doses. So I really appreciate all the points that were made by other panelists.
Thank you so much, Susan. Hanifa, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Shannon, I would like to take not one, but several steps back and look at the mental health epidemic that we are now not apt to treat with anything that we have in our toolboxes right now. But I don't think that it's substances that created these problems. And now we're just debating whether it's a white pill or a green pill that I would take to take my pains away. So I think we need to think hard on what brought us here on the societal level and look at those things first, and look at the substances that we take to mitigate those problems next.
Yes, thank you, Olga. That's just so poignant. Like, that's the thing that's really connecting this all together, which is disconnection. That is the thing. Disconnection, separation, feelings of disconnection, belief in disconnection, is the number one driver behind addiction. And particularly beginning to abuse, right, and then getting in the cycle. And again, one of the impetuses of why we started Fireside, because we just were like, we don't want anybody to feel like they're alone. We don't want anybody to feel like they have to turn to doing more or putting themselves in a dangerous situation because of the loss that they're feeling and the connection that they're looking for potentially in working with the substances and medicines that they're using. And I just want to throw in, just to share some of the data that is coming through for us. So when we were closed, we missed about 600 calls in our first month. We have had a total of like 270 conversations. 77 of those people were having psychedelic experiences. 88 were processing past experiences, and about 10 were having were trip sitting someone else. There were about 16 people who indicated that if it wasn't for Fireside Project, they would have called up 911 or ended up in the ER. And of the folks who did fill out the post survey, 88% of them said that they felt heard, supported, and understood by our volunteers. And really what we're seeing on the line is like, that is one of the fundamental things. People are coming and calling and texting because they want connection. They just want to know someone is there and that they're not alone. And I think that in the care industry, if you want to call it medical care or mental care, it is about the care and that support. And I just thank you for backing us up, Olga, and really looking at the heart of the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you all so much for that.
I totally agree. There's something, this is a technology perspective, right? That our technologies that were supposed to connect us, very clear data. The more you're on Facebook, the more lonely and depressed you get. They're not doing the thing. We're embodied creatures. We have bodies. We need to feel each other, touch each other, connect on low level embodied ways. And that's sort of my passion and my research. And thinking about how we can combine this together with psychedelics, together with a larger therapeutic approach is really what I'm so grateful to be involved in. And, we're prototyping a meditation aid device that will let you connect your heartbeat to someone else. So you can sit and meditate and get biofeedback, not only of yourself, but of your friend that's doing this with you or your therapist, and just trying to connect our physiology in very different ways that technology does allow us to do. We don't need to stay in these 2D screens, texting and pressing like buttons. We're getting to these stages where we can bring our bodies into this and create these deeper bandwidths. And at the end of the day, that is, I believe, based on the data that I've seen, it's the loneliness epidemic that's behind so much of the mental health crisis. And I love Fireside. I also just personally, I got very good feedback from a friend that has used this as an integration. And it's just amazing to see people that are so passionate, they're an NGO, they're not here for as a company, bringing their data from the festival world where they were supporting people in real life and now starting to use technology. If it's, it's still from my perspective a bit like older technology. Hopefully in the future we can bring the supporters, the volunteers into people's spaces in more immersive ways, but it's really an amazing job that you're all doing.
Wonderful. Does anyone have anything else to add to that? All right, and we do have a question in the chat in regards to technology, which we will get to in a bit here. But I just want to comment or bring a question in regards to connection, which we're currently talking about. And I do want to dial back to clinical research as well. But when we're looking at connection, what are the benefits of peer support in the psychedelic space? And also, what role does the current psychedelic community play in this?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about peer support, it allows, this is a people-centered and then people-forward practice. And so it invites everybody in. So regardless of education, regardless of credentials, right? Regardless of what your school of thought might be, psychotherapy or this practice or that. Peer support is it draws and it levels the playing field. So it's saying, I have empathy and understanding for your experience, and I'm also here to be with you in that. I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to diagnose you. I'm not here to convince you about my values or anything to do with me. I'm putting my ego aside and I'm walking beside you and with you. I'm going to make sure you don't harm yourself or other people. So it puts that person forward. And that creates connection. It honors someone's wholeness. It makes, and in honoring that wholeness, it validates someone's experience. There's many, like the Zendo project through MAPS has done amazing work for many years in the festival scene and in real life, when you're live and in person. And so what we're discovering with Fireside is like moving and being in this world of distance and screens. Like people are calling in, people are texting in. And so still knowing that folks are going to be using and going to be in relationship with these medicines, we want to make sure that there's something 24/7 and not just only live or at a festival. There are other populations within societies beginning to understand the importance of being able to interact and support those who are having psychedelic experiences. So we're looking at Denver, we're looking at the state of Oregon, and probably very soon California itself. We are in the practice or in the process of reaching out to other healthcare professionals, emergency care professionals, and doing this peer support training with them so they know how to interact with folks who are having psychedelic experiences. For example, someone might say, might be going through an ego death. And so they're talking about, I'm dying. And one might see that it's like, oh, we need to call the police so this person wants to kill themselves. But no, it's actually an experience that's happening when you're having a strong psychedelic experience. You literally feel like you are dying. And so there are ways that we want to mitigate the risks and also elevate the potential experience of the psychedelic experience. So those are some things that I would say for now.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to comment on that?
I think I was very, very lucky, being in the Netherlands, learning neuroscience while I was exposed to sort of these substances in a legal framework and had friends that were experienced with this. And I think, the goal is to get these types of support structures. I didn't need a therapist. I didn't need a facilitator. I just needed friends that could see me and educate me and hold space to have very, very therapeutic experiences. And I think that is both the magic of what Fireside is doing and what generally like Red Light Holland is pushing for, is let's make sure that everyone has access to people who have the knowledge and the capability to hold space and how we do this. And I think there's very interesting things happening currently in Oregon that are on the edge of that. They're not looking at like pharmaceutical control, but they're looking more at a facilitated peer support type structure. I hope we figure this out. I don't want psychedelics to be accessible only to the very privileged people like I was. I think it can help so many people if they actually get access to it and in a way that offers that support.
And not only access, but have proper education at their level into what these substances can do and how they can manifest. Because we have to remember that on the panel today, and majority of participants attending us, we live in this bubble, and to us it's a day-to-day, but for a very significant proportion of population, this is a big unknown, and we're wired to be afraid of unknown. So as an industry, I believe it's upon us to make information about this accessible, but to make sure that it's not glamorized, but to make sure that it's not overly negative potential effects of the substance only are highlighted, as it was often the case with cannabis, for instance. So education is definitely a major piece.
Yeah.
Totally.
I would go back to the access. Sarah, you're bringing up access. My biggest fear in this space is it's going to come in a pill form that you have to get through your medical practitioner who doesn't know who to prescribe it to or what its use is, the dose, and then you have to go to a psychotherapist with set and setting, and the price can be upwards of $2,500 per session. And because it's a 6-hour session, I worry deeply about equity and inequity of access. So I love, Hanifa, your work with Fireside. These access points and education points, as you said, Olga, are so critical. in our space right now, and what we've become normalized to. We have a lot of systemic change to do. But one of the beautiful things of psychedelics is changing plasticity. And we spoke to ego death, and the biggest thing I look to is in changing plasticity, and is in a time where we're so polarized on so many different opinions, and we are sitting there and clicking likes and dislikes and living in a world of cognitive bias towards whatever our opinion is, that psychedelics open up a window of opportunity for change in our plasticity to be able to open ourselves to new opinions, not only about ourselves, but about the world around us, to connecting to ourselves in a different way. If you're in chronic pain or have mental health issues, that you have this window of opportunity to examine yourself in a different way, and it can change your observation about yourself in a permanent way with a very low dose. And that's so exciting. But the equity issues are paramount for me, and making sure that if you need to be offered this different way of examining yourself, that it's a fully available thing, and the education is also available to you.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick plug-in of our VR experience that we created called Wisdom, which we're basically deploying both in stores in the Netherlands. So, once they post-COVID open up more and tourists are around thinking and going in, we want to do truffles, they can actually get both an entertaining, but I hope we're in the standards of Olga, and I'd actually love to send it to you, and, very open to feedback of both the benefits and the risks of how to do this in a way that does risk reduction for people that are interested in doing this in the Netherlands. And we're working quite a lot on the educational front, starting in Oregon, to make sure, if we want this to be accessible, the education needs to go to the people that can have the ability to then speak up and also pressure the government around. It's still unknown whether or not in Oregon they're going to allow group sessions, right? And Susan, when you speak about the financial aspects, if we can't have group sessions, which is how psychedelics have been done traditionally, we're not likely to manage to get this to people that need it. So sort of creating a community of people that know what they want and know that they can ask for this, I think is really important.
Thank you, Sarah. If it's okay for me to jump in, Shannon, I just wanted to say that, when we talk about, sometimes I feel like when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, it just becomes this big clump, and it actually takes out the humanity of what's actually behind it, the people. And we also know that representation matters, and that folks really respond to representation. So one of the ways that we are just moving in action around how to change the psychedelic space, like how to move the psychedelic space into a more consciously co-creative place, into a more representative place, into a place that really is not just a Skittles game, as I say. It's not about numbers, but it's actually about really empowering people from different diverse identities to be in authority, right? What ways can we give people choice? And so we are creating an equity fund, Fireside Equity Fund, which would be for any of our volunteers who come from communities who have been traditionally oppressed, right, who've been made to be underrepresented, who are wanting to further their careers in the psychedelic space as psychedelic healers, or for trainings for grad school, that they can apply for some funding to support their advancement, so that they can be doing psychedelic therapy work and doing psychedelic healing work in the community. Because we know that that is a game changer. When you have people from different backgrounds, that they are going to attract those folks who align with them. It's just real. And so that's definitely one way that we're going about it. And we definitely have an intention, as we do grow. We are developing an app and a custom console. And we want to, in time, be able to have enough volunteers to say that when a caller or someone who's texting, engaging the line, has a choice. Like, so if you're a woman or you're femme identified and you're actually processing something that or you don't want to talk with a man or no-body person, you have that choice. Along all identities, we want to give people more options of choice. So, someone had asked a question about like how are we, looking at getting more people of color or those who have been underrepresented the services. It is also about bridge building and pulling people into the line as volunteers as well. So we're really looking at a really full-bodied approach to who's on the line, giving the support. How do we get to the communities that aren't represented here, to the table and know that this is actually a resource for you to use. And it's all about relationship building, and it's all about going to those communities and building real relationships. Just wanted to share that.
Wonderful. Thank you, all of you. Those are amazing answers, and definitely very important topics to talk about. I know we only have a few minutes left here, and we have some questions coming up in the chat in regards to technology. There are some questions in regards to AI, VR, but what role does technology have to play in the psychedelic space going forward in regards to awareness and education of psychedelics?
Okay, I'll jump in, but I'm sure you all have things to say too. Right. What's amazing about technology is the scalability of it. We can, instead of going one by one, person by person, we now have the internet, we have mobile phones, and we can get experts directly into people's homes. We can have one expert taking their knowledge, diffusing it to many people. And that, I think, is the uniqueness. And using, you learn best when you play. We know this from neuroscience, like play is the most important part of education, curiosity and exploration. So combining expert knowledge with play is the way and the approach we're taking. Education, especially for masses, doesn't need to be read the actual paper. Right? We can have experts reading the actual paper. Academies, it's a language of itself, right? Which is I have a lot of criticism about that, but there's a way to get this data and make it accessible for people in an interactive way. In our VR experience, you can actually hold the psilocybin molecule in 3D. This is something that I don't think even neuroscientists have had that experience of taking. It was very magical when we built it. The molecule, plugging it into the receptor, you can actually see the 3D puzzle, and you yourself can plug it in there and see what it does to your neuron, how your neurotransmitters fire when you plug in the molecule. So we can get this data into people's hands in really fun and entertaining ways, and we can build communities around this. The debias anything around mental health. Like, we need to be talking about these things more openly and getting support from our community. So these are the roles that technology can and should be playing, as well as educating the more professionals, right? Educating the psychiatrists, the doctors, so that Susan's worry doesn't happen. And doctors actually have a better understanding, getting doctors to experience psychedelics, open their minds up a bit, what this can help for them. So all these things, I think technology is going to play a really big role.
I'd like to speak to technology in a different way, in not just the education and the interactive experience of your patients, but the most amazing things that are happening in not just neuroscience, but in imaging technology. So psychedelics, they haven't been researched since 1960. And you can imagine the amount of technology and imaging that in science, we've been able to explore so many other compounds at so many different levels, including neurobrain imaging. We can now measure nociceptors, which are the receptors for pain, in a dish, so we can actually give psychedelic substances and actually measure outcomes of pain. So we have so many amazing new tools and MRIs, all of these machines that we previously didn't have, and now we can examine psychedelics with the same lens as other medication. So I'm so excited for that technology integration to be included in learning so much more about these compounds.
And I'm happy to say that we have some of the latest and greatest imaging tools, the portable helmets that allow you to take all the data that you would need to plug yourself into the clunky fMRI for. So now it's possible to trip and have your brain imaged, and we're about to do that.